Welcome, you awesome people out there, friends of the mysterious and the unbelievable. My name is Daniel. Welcome to Flight Chariots The Rise. Today's guest is Amram Long, aka Rambunctious. He's not only an awesome dude, but also a great rap artist. But today, we're not talking about his music. Ram had a few interesting UFO sightings in the past that he wants to share with us today. Besides that, Dustin, Ram, and we talk about the whistleblower David Grush. We talk about Bob Lazar, psychedelics, and much more. So please stay tuned or you're missing out on some really great stuff today, guys. And if you like today's episode, please leave us a like, a nice comment, or subscribe to our channel. You can also find Flying Chariots The Rise on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Deezer, and every other podcast platform.
So, here with us is Ram. He's a UFO enthusiast, and he had his own personal UFO sightings, and he's here to tell us about them.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
thanks again, Ram. And will you tell us some
Hey,
more about yourself?
what's happening? What's happening? Well, about myself in general. Let's see. Well, I grew up in. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, but I grew up in Phoenix, Arizona, from about 8 years old. I think that would be the first place where I started having any interest in UFOs. As everybody knows, Arizona's somewhat of a hot spot.
Mhm.
Um, I'm, I mean, a serious hot spot actually. But and I remember in the live when I would go to in like third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade, in that probably in the time in that time frame of probably fourth or fifth grade, you would go to the library and you could pick out three books, and I would always get like Bo Jackson autobiography or Wilt Chamberlain or something like that, sports, right? And then I would get like natural weathers, like I was fascinated with tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that. And then UFO books. And I think I had said this on a podcast with you before, actually, Dustin, is that I remember the librarian or certain teachers would say stuff like, "Oh, why don't you get a different book?" I remember one specifically, and I said, "No," because I had all three of my books for UFO books at this point. I remember, and this teacher was like, "Oh, why don't you get some different type of books?" I'm like, "Nah, I want to get these type of books." And she's like, "But yeah, but those aren't real." And I said, "Well," and as a kid, I was thinking like, "Well, my mom believes in them, and I believe in them." So,
Yeah.
so I mean,
Yeah.
my mom knows more than you as a kid. As a kid, I don't know
Yeah.
you. Like you just, it's just your job, right? I know my mama is. No, I mean, I'm joking, but but yeah. So I always had that interest like that, and I'd say around 12 years old is when I first, I would say, had some type of experience. And now we know with the back engineering, who knows what the fuck I saw, right? And all the different theories and but at the time, 12 years old, it's 1990. Okay, and I'm walking and outside of our in our apartment complex, you have your apartment building and then a separate building for laundry. So you go downstairs, make a left, walk about 20 feet, and then make a right 20 feet, and you're under this awning. When you make the right, you're under an awning to where you don't see anything anymore. But as you're going straight out, once you go down the stairs and you're going straight, you see pretty clear sky in this area because there's not a whole lot to block the sky from you in Phoenix. You know what I mean? If you get an open enough look at the sky, you're gonna see for a long fucking way, right? And
Mm.
I look up, and it's probably about right at that time, right after the sun goes down, but it's not quite all the way dark. And I see this bright light in the sky, like as if you were to just like tilt your head back a little bit and just straight up as if you looked up. And I'm holding my laundry, and I see it basically in the sky go up, and it looked like a star, but like an extra bright star because
Mhm.
from my vantage point at the time, and that's really what I thought. I was like, man, it looks like a bright ass star. And it went up, and then it went this way, and then it went back, and then it just disappeared. When I say disappeared, it just, I mean, you could see it go in a sense, but it just from my naked eye, I didn't even see it move. I just saw it jump. Really, it was more like You know, and I've heard
Right.
this analogy now more, the ping pong, like ping, boom,
Yeah.
boom, you know, and
Yep.
then boom, gone. And that's exactly what it was. And so I dropped the laundry. I run upstairs and I tell my mom, like, Mom, yeah, I just saw this. And she's like, really? You know, cool. All right. Well, that's crazy. You know, I tell the story. And then I'm all excited and go finish the laundry because of course I still had to do that. Um, and that was that. And you know, I didn't I knew enough about um, uh, people thinking that if you thought you saw a UFO, you were, you know, crazy. I knew enough that I didn't go to school like you would think as a kid, like telling kids like, oh no. I was like, no, I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna keep that one with myself because
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the weird kid that thinks he saw a UFO, right? You know, I was uncool enough at that time and just cool enough at that time. Like I was right in the middle to where I was like, I'm not gonna fuck this up, you know. but uh, but yeah, so that was the first thing that really made me like, oh, okay, so this shit is real. And I always had parents that believe stuff like that. And there's a story about my grandma that I don't know if I'm allowed to tell, but I'm telling anyway. And for some reason,
Ram,
you know,
sorry, let me interrupt you right here before we get
she'll
to the.
never see this, by the way. But yeah, I'm sorry.
Let's go back to the first sighting you had with the object that moved strangely. What size and shape are we talking about?
Well, it seemed like just basically a bright, like as if you saw Jupiter or something. You know how Jupiter's super bright if you see it
Right.
naked eye, like
Hmm.
that. But so let's say twice or three times as bright. It was just something like that. I didn't really see a shape. It just was a light.
Mhm.
More or
That's the
less.
first. That was, yeah, more or less, yeah. And it was far enough into the distance, you know what I mean, to kind of, or not into the distance, but more up the, you know what I mean, up towards the atmosphere more so than at a plane distance. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
the fact that you
yeah,
saw it and it was just a bright star looking thing, and as you're
yeah.
looking at it, it started to move up, and then
Up,
instead of
and then
hitting
it
left and then
erratically
right.
almost did like a number four, as if you can imagine, almost like boom,
Oh,
boom,
sure.
boom, like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it almost like that.
And you think it was maybe
Yeah.
fast enough where obviously it's not a jet or anything where probably like anything inside that craft would have been like juice on the wall. It was just like,
It's as fast. Yeah, it's as fast. It's as fast as I just did it. Like
oh yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, so I mean, you know,
Yeah, a
because
planet
in my
doing
mind,
that.
that's what I thought. Even at that age, you know, I'm smart enough. I'm 12 years old, so I was smart enough, maybe going to 13, maybe, and so I'm smart enough to know what the fuck, you know, I just saw, and
Sure.
I'm like, holy shit, no, no, there's nothing that can do that. You
Yeah.
know, I
No.
watched enough GI Joe to know that. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
So Ram, if you would
you
if you
know,
would if you would stretch out your arm and point with your finger at this object, could your fingertip cover it completely, or was it bigger than your fingertip?
that's interesting. I would say it would be. I would say it'd probably make my fingertip glow
Oh, okay.
if
Oh
I did
wow.
that, right? Like, so the light still might be
Cool.
behind it a little bit. You still
Mm.
might be
Ah,
able to see that it's there. That's a hard estimate, but that's what I would say.
Okay,
no, that's
So you
interesting.
cool.
might not see it, but like, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
It was like
Right.
that kind of,
Yeah,
yeah.
interesting.
But not close by any means to where I could make it out like a shape. You
Mhm.
know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. And then you know, there's a phenomena that I've thought about since then. This goes up about 4 years after that when I'm 16. Okay. And there's this phenomena that I've found out about. Well, I guess me and my dude might have known it, but me and my best friend at the time, and who ended up being my best friend up to about 39 years old. I'm 45 now. So, and then we'll never speak again. Long story. Totally different
Mhm.
podcast. Might be interesting, but totally different podcast, right?
Right.
So we walk it along, and we made this walk almost every day of our lives, sometimes 4 times a day. And that's from his house to my house, right? My apartment, excuse me, to his house, right? And it's the theory that some people say loss of time can be, because now, you know, like I've heard abductions could be loss of time, right?
Mhm.
And this, I'm not saying I was abducted, let's get clear, right? But we did have a loss of time that I've always thought about, like, what the fuck was that day? And now that, you know, the fact that finding out time's linear, and then that people say that some of the beings that do come through UAPs and stuff might just be more linear in time, or coming from the future, or you know what I mean, a different dimension, you
Sure.
know, all that, right? So with that, I think to myself, okay, so what is the loss of time then? So that kind of coincides too. And what it was is at this time we made this walk from that we make almost every day. And during this walk, we both kind of looked at each other like, yo, man, like, and we both kind of looked confused at each other. And we realized that we had gotten through, it's a 20-minute walk, and we had gotten through, man, what seemed like 15 of the minutes in like 3 to 5 minutes. Yeah, so like it was an easy 10 minutes of time where we were like, and we were both confused on how, because we weren't walking that fast. It was a slow stroll. It's the same fucking walk. I'm telling y'all, when I tell y'all I did this walk probably at least twice a day every summer. It was the same walk to school. You know what I mean? Through fucking high school, so you can understand how many times I did this walk. Probably 1,000 times I did this walk. Easy, easy, right?
Wow.
And that day we were like something was off about the timing of that, and we really
Well,
both felt like it, and we really felt like we lost time that day.
the
Yeah,
interesting thing is that both of you realized it. It's not just like
right.
you, like, dude, I feel
No,
really weird
exactly,
lots of time. He's like, oh, what are you talking about?
exactly,
But the fact that you guys like
exactly.
look at each other and like
That,
something seems really off and like
yeah.
time, and you guys look at the time and you're
And
just kind of waiting out, like, what the fuck?
I swear on everything. Me and him don't talk. I wish we did just to qualify this story. Otherwise, he can get,
Sure.
he can. But no, man, I'm telling you, and it tripped me out because I forgot about that until this one time I was watching something and they were talking about that, how abductions you might lose time and not realize that you were in this whole nother dimension or whatever. And I'm like, at 16, that's interesting, right? So then, fast forward to I'm 20, and it happened to not, and this is just one I missed. I happened to be from Phoenix and grew up there, and happened to not be in Phoenix for the Phoenix Lights that Five Simonton
Oh,
saw and all that.
damn. You
So
missed
I'm
that.
in Wyoming. I'm in Wyoming. However, in Wyoming, I heard a lot of stories of people saying
Hmm.
that was interesting to me. Is up there, a lot of people had stories, and this woman dude had a cabin one time, and he was like, "Oh yeah, people say they seen stuff up here all the time." And I find it fascinating because we were near Air Force bases, and Arizona being a hot spot with both Air Force bases there. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And so yeah. So anyway, so those are those. And then shoot, my daughter was about 5, so this is about 2008, 9, 2009, I think. And I'm in Middleton, and I'm with two homies right after going to a bar in Middleton, and we're on the back patio, and it was probably like at least 2 football fields long. This like brownish, almost looked like a blob, and it's 2:30 in the morning, and we are drunk and we smoke weed, but that does not make you see what we saw. I don't care what nobody says. Shit, I could have been on a lot of things and not seen it. You know what I'm saying? Anyway,
Sure.
so it was like, and I'm sorry, my hands you guys can't see, but it was like it was like this blob that kind of kept changing shape, right?
Weird.
But staying in this same path, straight the same path like this, about that fast across the sky for about 10, 15 minutes, 10 minutes, I'd say. And the crazy thing is, 3 grown ass men. I'm oldest one, but then there was a dude that was like 27 at the time, and oh, actually, one was my daughter's uncle, and then another dude. And we see this, and when I tell you, it was like we like grab each other, like, yo, like that's how crazy it was. Is all I felt was another hand, like yo, what? And we're all doing that, like looking at each other, like, what the fuck is that? Like freaking out. Because it's like if you looked over your tree line or your house line, like in your neighborhood, it was
Yeah.
as if it was maybe 100 to 200 feet over that, so not very high up.
Sure.
And it was, how sometimes in Wisconsin at night, late at night like that, overnight. Sorry, I'll wait for the truck. Like overnight, it can the sky because of the cloud cover can look kind of bright,
Yeah.
but it's still nighttime. It
Right.
was like that. It was like that, and then you have this brownish, grayish, like big, like huge blob, like huge, y'all. I'm telling you, like I'd say at least a football field.
Mhm.
And then once you couldn't see it anymore, it went over the tree line that goes along the Middleton airport. So if anybody here knows the Middleton, that area of Middleton, when
Yeah.
you're looking towards the Middleton airport from, let's say, the street, actually I can tell you the street from Northbrook in Middleton, Wisconsin, from Northbrook, you're looking out towards the airport. There's two other people that can confirm it, and if they tell you lying, then they just don't remember it, and that's fine. But they were there, and I can tell you the names, but I'm not gonna do that. But yeah, and we just watched it, and we were like, holy shit, to the point, right, where Google and all that stuff had just started popping, right, like really popping, where you could look up anything, right, but we weren't that proficient, so we literally got on and tried to look up is anybody reporting this right now? We
Mm.
called we can't call 911 because they're gonna be
Sure.
like, yo, he's and well, you wouldn't anyway. You wouldn't anyway,
Yeah.
but I
Right.
mean, but even if you called the cops are gonna be like, these motherfuckers. Yeah, we're gonna have to search your crib. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? You
What kind of
know?
drugs are these guys on?
But we really looked up and tried to figure out if there was a way to like
Sure.
a hotline or something. We didn't know, you know what I mean, how to do that. And no, there wasn't. We didn't find anything. But yeah, that one right there was probably the one where I was like, like, oh, like frozen, like and
Yeah.
three grown men grabbing each other, like, oh
Sure.
boy, what is this? Like, what the fuck is this? Like, yeah, that was a wild one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask you about the blob. Did it look dense?
It was almost like it was a ball of gases. That's
Hmm.
why, but at the same time, it wasn't. Because like a ball of gases would move in an irregular direction. This was
Sure.
the thing, right? Like if it was, and this is what I was telling them. They were like, "Oh, it could be this." We were thinking that, and I was like, "Right," but if it was something that was moving with the slight breeze, there wasn't a wind going on or nothing. It was a slight breeze. If it was something that moved like that, then it wouldn't have moved so perfectly across a
Sure.
straight line.
Right.
And I mean, and I'm talking about perfectly the whole time it went. It didn't. It wasn't like. It wasn't like this. You see what I mean? Like it wasn't like
Right.
that floating, even if it stayed kind of in a straight line. No, it was like as if it was on a tightrope, like as if it was on a drone on a string type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Weird.
It was almost like those train cars that are on ropes. That are back in the day, like in San Fran, I think it was or whatever. Where
Hmm.
was it? Or New York, maybe those type
Um.
of things.
Yeah, I forgot the
But it
names
was
of them.
like
Yeah.
those. It was like it was
Okay.
on something like that, where it's gonna go just like this the whole time. That was the most peculiar thing. So, but there were parts on the edges where it looked like you could see through it, kinda, right?
Sure.
Like as if you had uh cloudy water. You kind of see
Oh,
through it,
yeah. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you can't see through it, right?
Sure.
Sort of like that. But then the more to the center you got, no, you couldn't see anything through it at
Wow.
all.
It
You
makes
know
you
what I
think
mean?
that UFOs use that as cover, to camouflage or just kind of blend into the clouds, but obviously it stood out like a sore thumb,
Right,
you know.
right. Is that a cloaking mechanism? Right, right. But think about the time at
Sure.
night. How many people are really up in Middleton, Wisconsin, in that area at 2:30 in the morning and happen to be looking in that part of the sky?
Sure. Sure. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
That was the thing that got me. It was like the time to see it. And I mean, what are you gonna do? Walk around and say, "Hey, did you just look up the sky a little bit ago?" And we were drunk walking the streets at
Wow.
2:30 is not smart in Middleton,
Well, the fact
Wisconsin.
that you had other guys witness this with you, even if you guys
Yeah,
were all still fucked up, it'd be different if you guys were
yeah,
fucked up and you
yeah.
guys were all seeing all sorts of different
Well, here's the
things.
thing. Well, here's the thing. At that time, I drink, so I,
Sure.
it'd be very hard for me to get drunk enough to think I saw something like that.
Sure.
That's how
Sure.
much I've drank where I know how to drink. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Right.
ain't no weed about to affect me like that either. I smoke like that too.
Right.
I mean, and if it was shrooms, it'd have to be a lot of shrooms.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So
It always
no,
reminds me of the movie Nope. Did you see that movie Nope?
right? Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't like the
Indifferent.
fact that the UFO itself was the monster. I didn't really like that. I thought I
I didn't
like,
either.
you know, but
Hmm.
getting back to like how it morphs, you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? That's
Hmm.
interesting. and like how you describe it's almost kind of like morphing and moving in a sort of way, and like almost kind of like a lava lamp. It almost sounds like too, where that's kind of that
It was
flowy.
similar. It was similar like that, but it was like it was like I say, the a brownish,
Hmm.
grayish, like almost as if you were watching a dust storm. See,
Mm.
and that's gonna make people think that maybe I just saw something. But what the problem with it was is that it had an outside to it,
Yeah.
like it had
Mm.
an edge to it.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't.
And the fact that
It
it
wasn't
went in a
like,
straight line too.
and it went in a straight line, but like it had an edge to it. Like okay, like when you look at the screens that we're all looking at, I don't know if y'all looking at the one where you can see everybody, but
Mhm.
it has, it, has that green border around it.
Yep.
If the camera's on you when you're looking at the
Yep.
thing, right?
Yep.
Then that is what it looked like. Like it was like it had a
Had a
definite border.
border. Right.
You see what I mean? That would be that would be kind of what that shape. And I can't. The shape is all I can say is the shape was kind of like this,
Cigar
like
shape.
that. Yeah, but also kind of but
Snaky
not really
looking.
cigar. Yeah, yeah. Well, just not as a uniform
Sure.
shape. It wasn't cylinder. It was just kind of like that. And I've never forgot it. I don't care what I
Oh
don't care what nobody
man.
says. Yeah,
That's
I've never
so
forgot
dope.
it. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Um,
crazy. A few minutes ago, you talked about the missing time experience you had, and there's also, I'm sure you heard about it, the Oz factor. When that happened with the blob-like object, were you aware of your surroundings, like sounds and stuff like that?
yeah, it was super quiet. Like that's
Yeah.
the thing,
Mm.
is that whatever that was didn't make a sound at all, and it was very quiet. It was very quiet because it's 2:30 in the morning.
Sure.
That was one thing, and we weren't listening to music. We just got back from the bar. So what we did is walked from the back, like I'm on the front porch. So it's like we would walk through our house. This isn't the place, but walk through the house and went to the back porch and stood there, all three of us, sipping a beer, smoking cigarettes, very quiet. And one of us looked over and goes, "Whoa, what the fuck is that?" And the other three of us look, oh, or two
Holy
of us were
shit.
like, "Oh shit!" And this is when we just start grabbing each other, like when a grown man grabs you, like,
Oh, like that. Yeah, that's scary shit.
you know what I mean? That's when I was like, okay, I'm not the only one seeing this either. Like,
Right.
yeah, that was a trip. That was
That's a
the
trip.
funniest part about it, is like all of us would, I'm not gonna say their name, but all of us would laugh at that now because we look like some little, little bitches. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we look a little.
Sometimes when people experience stuff like that, there is quiet and there is like really quiet, and this is what we call the Oz factor, right? So
Right, right.
quiet is not
Yeah.
quiet.
The quiet it reminded me of. I don't know if y'all have ever seen or been around when a tornado was forming.
Yeah.
Mm.
If you ever, okay, here, this is totally off the, well, no, it's not off the subject. But in 2004, I moved here, and I was living over on the west side of Madison, about a mile and a half, 2 miles from Westgate Mall. Yeah, it
Yeah.
just skipped kind of right that area where
Yep.
Westgate is.
Yep.
Well, right when that was happening, I got my new daughter and her mom. We all in the basement, and I look out the door, and I'm like, oh, man, this is for this. I'm like, this is starting to, you know, that slow rotation, and the
Yeah.
sky was getting purple and orange and all that, them weird colors, and it was dead fucking silent. And I was
Whoa.
like, this is fucking amazing. So I'm peeking out the door after I was just like freaking out, like, yo, we gotta get in the basement. Oh my God. But I'm peeking out the door, and I'm like, this is fucking amazing. This is crazy to watch, just to watch the whole shit, right?
Right.
That's the kind of silence it was.
You
When
think
that, you know
too,
what I mean? When that came by, just that
right?
eerie
Especially
silence.
this the
Yeah.
silence, like even the animals, even like the crickets stop and like the birds
I
stop
mean,
chirping,
you
or you know what I'm
wonder.
saying? Like there
Yeah.
does that
Yep.
kind of even the
Yep.
animals, especially animals know with weather too. They can
Oh,
sense
yeah,
weather and they
absolutely.
get out of
Yeah.
the way or actually be quiet or you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
amazing.
That's true. That's
Wow,
true.
that's interesting, dude.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
gives me goosebumps
Yeah.
thinking about that. Like uh a
That
blobby
night was
type.
really, that was really a trip, because it's one of them things where you're like, okay, I know I was buzzed, but I just
Sure.
experienced that, and two other people, so it kind of felt, what it felt for me. It felt vindicating every time something like this, or anytime, there's a story from someone I believe, or like when I watched that story about Virginia, Brazil,
Yeah.
recently, that recent one.
Yeah,
Like
isn't that
it's the
crazy?
shit. To me, it's gratifying. Crazy. It's gratifying. Like it's great because you're like, see, we weren't no, the more that keeps coming out that's real, because I that's the thing, is deciphering what's real and not. And how much information you're really getting, as opposed to how much are they giving on purpose, right?
Yeah.
Or what the information, with the whole Congress and all that. Who knows what we're getting, because that's what they want us to believe.
Right.
And I say they, but you know what I'm saying. The same people giving us the information is who they is, right? So
Right. Yeah.
people can put that together however they want. But I think because you have to question it. But when you get little girls and people like who've been away for 26 years and didn't want to talk about it, and these different type of witnesses like that, everyday people, when that
Hmm.
starts to happen and it's confirmation like that, that's when I actually, uh, to me, is more uh, confirming than, rather than, fucking David Grush or David Fravor. Or to me, those
Hmm.
are the guys who are now geared to what to say. They've been around for a while now. What's
Yeah.
now? And then the Congress and all that. Okay, cool. Y'all know a whole lot of shit, but you ain't telling us shit really.
Hmm.
You're just telling us that these programs now exist. Okay, well, what's big? What's the next? What's over that then? What's the big step over that? Because if you're
Yeah.
willing to give us the fact that you have vehicles and you have bodies, and okay, then I have to assume that the next step would be up as you communicating with these entities
Yeah. Some
in
kind of
some form or fashion,
federation.
right?
Yeah.
Something, I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it's maybe they maybe they can't tell us that, because that ruins uh humanity in the future if they let us know.
Hmm.
Then tell us that. I just feel like there has to be reasons that they know that now they're telling us. Because think about it, when has the government ever given you just all the information?
No.
Any government ever, not just our
No.
government, any government ever.
Exactly.
When is it ever given its people? When is it ever given its people half the information?
It's true.
Never. You get just a morsel, so to keep the rat going for the cheese type shit. You know what I mean? Just to keep you
Sure.
going to work and paying taxes and shit. That's the whole purpose. That's why there's hierarchies and all that shit. So in terms of this information, they're gonna give us just a little bit. All
Yeah.
right, fuck. Tell the worker bees that there's other types of animals. I do appreciate it though, because it's making the common person
Yeah.
believe that would have never believed. The
Sure.
funny thing is, I had this conversation with somebody like in February or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And
I,
right before a lot of this shit came out. And then recently they were like, "Oh yeah, man, you might be right on that UFO thing." And I'm like, I might be. That's all it took. This is it. This
yeah.
like, really, that's it. That's all it took, is a conversation with me, and now they coming out in the news and saying it. It took the
Hmm.
news. like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I laugh at that, man. That shit is funny to me. It's wild, but yeah, I love it though. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. What do y'all think? Okay, let me ask y'all this actually. What do y'all think about whether or not this could be a setup to then trick us into like a one world government, or trick us into believing that this like the Project Bluebeam thing, where people say it's like, they're gonna have holograms that are actually US, just to make us, follow along type thing.
I
What do
feel
y'all
like,
think about that?
yeah. Again, I'm really 50-50 with the whole
Yeah.
thinking that humans are just
Anything about
gonna
it? Yeah.
put so much time and effort and money into tricking humans, thinking that is a fake UFO invasion, and then yeah, again, building closer to the one world government and army and everything else.
Yeah.
Again, I'm all about that. They've been here and they've been interacting with humans from the dawn of
Okay.
time, and
Right. Right.
from
Right.
even the higher up people in government. And I think there's
Yeah.
federations, and even they have their own agendas here. I kind of like the Earth is like the human zoo, you know, they're doing their own thing,
Yeah.
just studying us, and find it interesting that
that
we
that
just
seems to
wage
be
war
more
with each
likely, huh?
other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
All that seems to be more likely to me than them coming from another place. Um,
Sure.
and not saying that that's not possible. It's just I agree with everything you just said, though, right there.
I think there's so much stuff out there, so many secrets that are bigger than we can ever imagine. I don't think there's a
Yeah,
big hoax going on. This guy Crush, right? He came out with so many things and he can't prove it, or he won't prove it, or he's not allowed to prove it. I find it quite interesting, but I say, what's the use if you don't come up with proof? So,
right.
but it started a movement. I think it
Yeah.
started something that you
It,
can't stop anymore. And
Yeah.
this
yeah, it's an important step. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good point that you can't stop anymore. That's a very good point because it's like a bag. Now it's like a bag you open, you can't close it now. Like,
Yeah.
right.
yeah. That's crazy. I guess that's true. Um, here's one theory that I like and seems to be true. Um, is them being over nuclear bases and
Mhm.
disarming our missiles and shit. And that
Mhm.
whole theory is that they won't let us blow ourselves up.
Mhm.
I don't know if I just like that one. Like everybody should.
Yeah, exactly. You think we're gonna give them a pat on the
You know what
back
I mean?
after
Yeah,
for
like
saving our
hey,
ass or something like that, right?
keep it up, guys. But I think that's the most interesting one, and
Mhm.
they've I guess I mean from what every military person I've ever heard speak on it, they're far superior in terms of weaponry or anything. So
Mhm.
I think that's encouraging because if they wanted to take us out, they could have.
Yeah,
So
a long
you know what
time
I'm
ago.
saying? If they can disarm our missiles,
So many people say that, but why would they care? There's so many other stuff going on in the world, which is, in my opinion, much worse than a fucking nuclear missile that would wipe out everything in a few seconds.
but that's to us. Maybe that doesn't. None of that throws off the balance of the solar system. If this whole planet got nuked, it would throw off at once too. It would throw off the balance of the solar system. I believe. I think that's what only interest they might have. Now, maybe not an interest to take us out, but an interest to say, hey, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Sure.
Or hey, we're here too.
Right.
just because you surface motherfuckers think you run
Sure.
everything, you don't. You know what I'm saying? So maybe they're
Sure.
like, hey, we're here also. Can you
Yeah.
stop fucking this place up, please? Thank you. All right, we're gonna go. All right, check y'all later. I mean, that kind of that if the theory is that they're here and they're kind of like, yeah, we don't
It's
really
true.
need to be on this. We don't need to be on the surface. Just leave us alone. We'll be at the bottom of the ocean, in the core of the planet, whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That makes sense.
but we don't really like the surface anyway. It's hot.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm being trivial. I'm being trivial, but you know what I mean? Like we don't. That's not how we survive anyway. Y'all need that shit. We don't need that shit. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
can survive. We've evolved to survive without apples and fucking oxygen. Oxygen. Yeah, y'all still on that shit? Like you know what I'm saying? Y'all still on speaking out loud? Like
We use
hell,
our minds.
we can make you think you're talking. You see
Yeah.
what I mean? Like that. That's I mean, this is how I mean Elon Musk and these people come up with these ideas is because there's a species above us somewhere, somehow, that has done these things. You see what I mean? This is my theory. These are
Mhm.
so I feel like their interest would be, like kind of like don't let all the worker bee monkeys blow themselves up.
Yeah.
I really believe that. As far as I can see, otherwise,
Mhm.
why would they shut down nuclear missile bases and show us?
True.
That part doesn't. I mean, if it's defense, well, you don't need to defend yourself from us. We we're far less. So why would that's like me saying, "Yo, man, I gotta get these guns for this little 8-year-old around the block that's been
Yeah.
fucking with me. I gotta strap up for this 8-year-old."
Yeah.
I mean that's what that would be like, right? If they, I mean, honestly, that's how I look at it. I feel like that's how. I mean, if not even further, I might. Yo, man, I gotta work out so because I'm boxing this 2-year-old tomorrow. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that'd be crazy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the best analogy to me. It's like if they can shut down our missiles, move at speeds that we can't even fucking fathom, drop from 5,000 feet to sea level in
Right.
5 seconds or a second or whatever it was, then they don't need to gear up for anything. It's a futile fight. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So I feel like maybe what they could also be, they could be a race more superior that's also has a stake in this experiment of this whole shit. You
Mhm.
know, who knows? You know what I mean? I'm kind of going on a tangent. I'm glad I didn't get higher than I got before this. I hit it like once. You know what I'm saying? I could have went way further, but nah, but no, but I mean, no, I mean, I'm saying this in all
Sure.
seriousness too. We really are speculating. I mean, there's people that probably know all the answers, but I don't know, and I've done a lot of research and shit, and I'm not good at regurgitating stuff, but I soak up knowledge and just kind of, you know, um, see where that leads me. In terms of that. I've never received any messages like of anything crazy. Like people say they see stuff and receive
Sure.
messages, or they have contacts or nothing like that. One time when we did, this is a funny story, and you can take this how you want, because sometimes I wonder if it was a dream or if it was psychedelic
Sure.
contact through psychedelic. Because I
Hmm.
didn't do a whole lot of shrooms, right? This is actually during the pandemic lockdown. I was sitting in my car and I took a tiny bit of shrooms. And when I say a tiny bit, like, if you were to do, let's say, a cap and a stem to trip, to
Right.
actually trip, I did like a half a stem, which is more so just a mood enhancer when you've done
Sure.
shrooms
Sure.
enough before, right? So, I'm drinking some beer and I'm listening to music, and I kind of fall back, not fall back, but like I lean back in my seat in my Accord, and I'm chilling, and I kind of fall asleep a little bit, right? And I don't mean like fall asleep like hard. I mean like kind of doze a little bit, but to where I just kind of popped back up. I knew I hadn't been that long, like a couple minutes, but when I popped back up for a second, the first thing I did was look this way, and at my window was like a huge, typical gray alien head, right? So, just staring
Shit.
at me, and it was like how you lean back, and so your head's like this, but you can still see out the window like this, right?
Sure. Sure.
You see what I mean? Like, so I'm looking out the window, and it was like for a second, and then I kind of like came to, like, as if I was waking up, but it was at that threshold where I don't know if it was as I woke up or the dream right before I woke up. It was
Huh.
that kind of blurred line for me. So that was another one too recently in the pandemic that I always like. I know I didn't take enough shrooms to hallucinate because I know how many shrooms you have to do. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying? I'm a professional. I'm 45. First time I took shrooms, I was 20. So you know what I'm saying? I'm not new at this
Maybe
shit.
maybe you
You
released
know?
some natural DMT at the time, because
Well,
actually
it's
Daniel
possible.
actually had
It's
a weird
possible.
experience like this when he
Right.
was late.
Right.
He could probably tell his story, but I'll tell it really quick. It's really fast. But anyways, he was laying in the grass and he closed his eyes and he saw this like thing come from the back of his head, like a grid, a green
Mm,
grid. And he's just like,
mm.
whoa, this is weird. But he was not sleeping, but he was just kind of like just his eyes are closed. And he just happened to like look over and he sees this like window basically with an extraterrestrial with look like two um plates put together, you know, and a weird head
Oh
and a
shit.
long neck. Just looking at him like, "Who's you?" And then Dan fucking wigged out and opened his eyes like, "Oh shit, what the fuck was that?"
Yeah. It makes you wonder. Yeah. That's some
So I was
interesting
like,
shit.
it's kind of funny that you kind of said the same kind of story. The fact that you're just kind of resting and then you can,
Yeah,
again,
you weren't exactly sleep, weren't exactly fully awake.
right,
That's an interesting period. I've heard
hmm
they say if you can tap into some of that, there's like messages within that and shit. I've heard that. So that
right,
was another time where I'm kind of that one right there. Okay, now that's the only one where I was impaired in the way that
sure,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The other three, I was totally the other, or anything else I talked about, I was totally sure. You know what I
right.
mean?
Well, if you only took half a
100%.
stem,
Yeah.
I believe something
Oh
to
yeah,
just
that's the
triggers
thing.
your DMT, natural DMT.
I, at that time, I had done DMT by that
Oh,
time.
oh,
I've only
cool.
done it once, but oh, well, let me say I've done the real one once.
Is it
The
cool?
other
I
stuff,
never tried.
that's a whole nother. That's a no, sorry, dog. That's a episode.
Is it?
That's. I mean, it's a lot longer than we got right now. I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure how much of that story I want to tell or not. I've
No, that's
debated.
fine.
I've
That's
told
just
people. I've told people, but I don't know. I haven't said it
right.
all the way out loud exactly
Sure.
how it happened and what and that part I'm not sure how much I want to share yet
No, that's fine.
in
No,
the podcast.
me and Daniel had never tried it ourselves, and we're
Oh,
just curious on other people who done trying it. And
it's beyond cool. It's not like don't take it don't take it in the forms like a pen. Like there's a certain form and way to do it
okay,
that if you're not getting that, then it's fake. I've done a few of those and it's very disappointing.
hmm
And people tell these stories of like elves, worker elves, and
yeah,
like these beings that tell you that there's all negative and all these crazy stuff, like all these worker elves and these beings that come and visit you and shit, right? Now
hmm
I've done some stuff. I've smoked the pens and different things and different ways of doing it where that I saw that, but that's not the real shit.
right,
I don't know what that is because the one time I have done the real shit, it was the experience where people like talk about they went and talked to God, like that
sure,
kind of energy shit, right? And that
wow,
was what that was exactly the kind of energy I got. Like,
wow,
and I could go way deep into it. And it was almost like a nothingness. I mean, first that's the height of it. First, when you okay, so oh, fuck, I'll break some of it down.
yeah.
All right, so here's it's based. I'm not gonna get into my own personal part of it
No,
though,
that's fine.
but I'm
Just yeah,
basically like
sure.
this. First hit, you hit it, you chill, you're like, holy shit. Because you can see the geometrical shapes of the energy that connects everything that's natural.
Wow,
Does that make sense? So like the hexagons and the
sure,
shapes of atoms and shit like that that connects everything, not cars, not concrete. Oh, this was my experience.
sure.
But just the stuff that's natural, like my skin to a tree, right? Made
Wow,
up of the same shit type. You see that shit.
whoa.
That part right there fucked me up. I was like, oh, shit. You know what I'm saying? So see, like,
Oh shit.
so it is all connected. Like, because you're seeing it,
Right.
because you're tapping into something that can see past the
The
smoke and
realm.
mirrors, the smoke and
Right.
really, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Right.
then the second hit, you kind of feel like your body with it now, and you see even more. And at this point, it became sound. Like the sound of a car was irritating me because and if you started to download, I always say it was like the whole experience is like a download of information. And I
Whoa.
started to download the emotions and the feeling of and the awareness of exactly what this earth used to be before we came and fucked it up with all this manufacturing and all this, right?
Wow.
This is hit number three. You have to have somebody there to help you because you're gonna be like boom, right?
Right.
So and then I kind of shot off, felt like mentally, but you definitely don't feel your body at this point. It's scary, so you have to have
Right.
somebody there kind of in your ear to reassure you, like yo, you're good, because it got scary, and you kind of shot off into this other realm. I guess I could say is best the way to say it. And you definitely are realizing that you're not in your body, in your physical body,
Mhm.
and you start to communicate with some type of entity that you're downloading a bunch of information, and it went from this is my experience, and so then I downloaded this information and was able to ask it anything, but you also had this understanding that you were going to get an answer, and so I refused some of the things. Like it asked me, do you want to know when you want to die? I was like, nope. You want to, I mean, I didn't, you know what I'm saying? Do you want to
Yeah.
know,
Fuck that.
it was a lot of things, and I was like, no, 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 and then so then but then it said you're gonna get downloads of information of how to proceed through life as you live life, and you'll know when it's one of those moments where it just seems undeniably just came from within inside you that this information or this answer came. It was like that's the kind of communication that was going on, and then I kind of came from away from it. I resisted a little bit too at first And
Sure.
it was like almost this calm, warming feeling that was like, oh no, but you're good. Like, and it is like, and it was like, well, what are you? And it was like, you, right? That was the one of the main questions. I was like, well, what are you? You know, and it was like, you. I'm this. We're the same thing. You're talking to yourself in a sense because it's not disconnected. This is
Mm.
what this entity was telling me. Like that I remember that one question being very pertinent to me is that, well, who are you or what are you? And that was the answer is like you because you still don't understand that. Yeah, you can call me whatever you want, God, all this other shit, but it's just you. I know
Mm.
that might be a weird concept for people, but
Sure. Wow.
maybe 50 years from now you'd be thinking, yeah, that motherfucker. Damn, he said some shit that day. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it's serious, but I
Right.
mean, they say it in different ways, but I mean, everybody's a part of God and all that, and every religion says it in
Right.
some way because it, we're not separate from it because it's just energy. That was the message that I got during this whole, you know, thing. So that can get a little like I said, that can get deep, deep, deep. Well, I also believe that that beings from another dimension could come here in vehicles we don't understand because I don't understand a lot of shit. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? This shit like experiences like that where you see the makeup of shit, of nature and the makeup of trees and the squirrel run by and everything. That kind of experience makes me realize, oh, okay, well, I don't know shit. Let me drop my ego on all this shit, and that makes me realize, okay, well, for me to think this shit would not be real would be crazy. And I've always had that perspective. So, I'm 45 since I was 8, 10, 9, 10, whatever. Excuse me. But since then, I've had that kind of ideal. But now when it gets confirmed, it feels better where you kind of like, dang, okay, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Any of this shit is possible. You know, especially when you lump it with so-called conspiracy theory, which the whole UFO UAP thing used to be. I mean,
Yeah.
shit, couple like 2 years ago, like a year and a half ago,
Yeah.
there's people who are now into it who would have been like, oh, you're crazy, government. Why
Right.
would they hide this? And you get. I'm
Again.
telling you, like, nah, it's been a real short turnaround. I mean, shit. Yeah. For the last 5 years, man, has been crazy as fuck in terms of all that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to go back to something that we talked about before. And you talked about UFOs, aliens, and the nuclear sites and stuff. So I always think about if they were this superior alien race that cared about our well-being, why don't they step up and say, okay, here we are, and this is what we can do if you don't cut that shit out, right? And of course, there would be panic, as Dustin always says. Of course, there would be panic, and of course, there would be people jumping out of windows, of course. But in a few weeks or a month, the situation would have calmed down, and people would maybe understand that a lot of what they are doing just doesn't make sense. Why would they care? And when I say they, this goes for the aliens and for the government. Why would they care about a few thousand people jumping from rooftops since they watch us killing each other for centuries now?
Uh, that's
Okay.
interesting.
I mean, here's my theory on that because I don't think it would be so minimal, like you say. Just think about that. If it comes out that, let's say, let me give you a scenario. Let's say it comes out and the government's like, all right, here's the deal. We're telling y'all about this and we're gonna elaborate. Um, the reason we don't tell y'all is because actually we're not really in charge. There's
Mm.
let's see, there's this the let me just make up some alien names. I don't know all the alien race names. I'm just making up. But let's say
Yeah.
there's the Arterians, the Planetariums, the you blah 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 blah. Right? There's 5 alien races, and they live under us in the oceans in different
Mm-hmm.
civilizations. Matter of fact, some of them even can just appear here, and they're not even from this dimension, and they all are actually dictate how we run. Right? Let's just say that. Right? Then it wouldn't be minimal. It would be every major religion. Poof. You have no more followers because they just told us we was created by this or that we're not even that the government ain't even in control. So now if and if we don't know if these and all of that basically comes down to religions don't hold the same power. Then you got people who would, okay, well, if y'all not in control, fuck y'all. So now we're gonna just loot and burn. Then you got your criminal aspect who just gonna take advantage of the whole thing. You have all kinds of people. I think I think it's. I don't think it's the hysteria you're talking about, but I think in terms of any kind of faith and authority is gone. So
Yeah.
that changes the whole world. You see what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think that theory up to recently was the theory of why that didn't happen before. And like I said, they might not be interested in how we treat each other, but they might be interested in how we treat the planet as a whole because it's not ours.
Sure.
You see what I mean? It's it's shared by many fucking. I mean, the more species than we could even possibly fucking imagine. If we did a 24-hour podcast, we couldn't name a quarter of the species that are on this
No,
planet. You
it's
know what I'm
true.
saying? So it's like, I mean, a tenth. So that's why I think possibly. But at the same time, I mean, they might have some things to where if we went to their planet, we might be like, that's unethical, right?
Sure. Sure.
But they might look at it like, what the fuck? I mean, why would we care what they do? Now
Yeah.
I'm a liken this. I'm a liken this to another thing. Let's look at a predominantly white government in this country, right?
Hmm.
And they look at black neighborhoods all the time. They don't give a fuck that they doing that. They make fun of Chicago, and they don't give a fuck. Why would we give a fuck what they doing? It's them. So now think about that on a larger scale, and that happens every day here. We do that to each other every day.
It's true.
You know what I'm saying? So on a larger scale, I mean, it's like if you watching a bunch of fucking squirrels fuck each other up in the yard over one nut. I mean, I've seen them fight. Like I've seen gangs of squirrels fight other gangs of squirrels in Texas. What am I gonna do? Separate them? I don't give a fuck. Let the species do what it does.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how they look at us. I would. I would look at our crazy asses like that.
Yeah.
Do people really think that aliens from somewhere in space would be a big thing for a large proportion of people? Because people are lethargic, staring at the cell phones all day long and don't care about war. They don't care about how many people get killed every day. They don't care about animals going extinct.
Yeah.
They don't care about, I
Yeah.
don't know, the wonders that we find
Yeah.
every day in the deep sea or shit like that.
Yeah.
People don't care
Mhm.
about nothing. Why would they care if in the newspaper
Well,
or the cell phone news pop up and say, "Oh, aliens are there"?
you know what I
Yeah.
mean, Daniel.
We are.
We're seeing that they're not, and that's actually one of the craziest parts of this whole
Yeah, it
thing.
is weird.
But it's because they're not saying anything. They're saying they've caught them, and they've tried to reverse engineer them, and they might have bodies. They didn't really say we have ones alive, that we have communication. They have bodies. Well, none of that's really new for the already existing UFO community, and none of it. We all have known this, or figuratively have known stories about
Sure.
it, and either you believe it or you don't. Um, for the existing believers. Now, for any new people, I mean, they're kind of like, okay, well, what does that really mean? And they're not telling you what it really means for the casual, right? For the casual person, they're not telling them what it really means. Now, the step further would be: is there communication? Now that peaks. That's a little different. Is there are they among us? Right?
Mhm.
Like, are there human alien hybrids? How long have they
Yeah.
been here? Have they been
Mm.
controlling our government? Now, once more facts about it leak out in terms of concise shit like that, then I think you'll see the public change, because have presidents been? I mean, is the reptilian thing real? I mean, who knows? I mean, at this point, I just always kind of like, at this point, I can't say nothing is not possible. So,
Yeah, so many,
Mm.
so many questions,
you
so
know what
many
I mean?
questions,
Yeah, but
so
that's
many
what I'm saying.
questions.
So they haven't even answered 2% of the questions that would come from the public,
Yeah,
especially once you start talking about if there's been actual communication and contact, that shit, or if they're here. See, people still think they're coming from afar, like we were saying. So
Right.
we have this arrogance, and also that's another thing is, as humans, we have an arrogance in general.
Yeah.
Like, oh well, no little green men are gonna take over our. Like what? Like, what would you even do? Like, if they can read our minds, you know what I mean, and
Yeah.
communicate telepathically, which people who've had contact have said that they've communicated uh, with telepathy. So if that's the case, we don't stand a chance. But people still have this arrogance. We make
Yeah.
movies about it, spend hundreds of $1 millions making movies about it.
Yeah.
You know what I
It's
mean?
true.
It's just the arrogant part of, oh well, Will Smith's in charge and he's gonna beat the aliens. Just that arrogance is why no one will ever care until you tell them, oh, it's gonna affect your life on the daily. But
Sure.
they're gonna integrate with us now. So your kids are gonna go to school with alien kids that have
Yeah.
three fingers. This one race is gonna integrate with us, so that we can now beat another outside race that is controlling all of us.
Yeah. We can talk about Will Smith, but you know what? Keep Will Smith's wife's name out of your fucking
Keep Will
mouth.
Smith's name. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, you
No,
know.
that's too funny. But
You know
yeah, but
what?
I'm just saying, like, it's oh good.
Oh, sorry. You know what? The whole Grush thing and the whole whistleblower story. I don't know what is it about, but I know that it triggered my interest again in the whole Roswell topic. So we have
Mm.
in Roswell we have the same. We have the story about bodies they discovered, dead bodies. They said they have living creatures. They discovered living creatures. They have
Mm-hmm.
non-human technology. So everything is in there too, and it triggered my interest in the whole Roswell thing again because I think now, I of course I knew about Roswell. I had my opinion about Roswell, but now I see the Roswell case a little bit in another light. It's
I just saw something that said that they always say that there's nothing there because they want to divert attention. So it becomes, well, it worked. You know what I'm saying? It's worked for a good 40, 50 years. In some ways, it's gone, like, the trajectory of people interested has gone way down on Roswell. And I feel like, well, it worked. But there's been shit there the whole time, is what people are saying now, like that. And then there's the whole theory of Bob Lazar saying that there's a tunnel that goes to Denver Airport or something like that. And then also, I mean, that's highly possible. Trust me. If El Chapo can do 200 tunnels on just the Arizona Mexico borders, just with his
Yeah.
team, then our
Sure.
government could easily build a tunnel that goes
Yeah.
that goes from you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a fact. El Chapo really had 200 something tunnels on that border. And I'm just saying, think about that. And they're well structured tunnels with fucking train rail tracks to move
Yeah.
weight product. You know what I mean? So if that's possible, then 100% we could easily have a tunnel going from New Mexico to
Yeah.
to Arizona to Denver to the Grand Canyon, to Luke and Williams Air Force Base going south through Arizona after the Grand Canyon to who knows,
Yeah.
some
is
energy
it
source at the Aztec pyramid in the middle of Mexico somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? That's how I look at shit. But yeah,
since you mentioned him, what is your opinion about Bob Lazar?
I believe him.
All right.
He just seems sincere. He doesn't seem like an outlandish person, not a personality that's like been sitting back plotting this forever. His story hasn't changed. I've seen multiple interviews with him. His mood and the way he tells it doesn't change.
Mhm.
Same exact story. Um, there's more people now that are coming out and saying they basically similar stuff. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think why wouldn't I? There's a lot of people we believe that are lying right to your face, and you can tell they lying. I mean, like most politicians, we believe some of what they say, just enough to get up and go miss work and go vote. You know what I mean? We believe, but most of the motherfuckers are lying. At
Yeah.
least his story stayed more consistent than the last 20 fucking presidents. I'll tell you that damn much.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's been whistleblowers back in the 80s and 90s coming out, like the other guy, Phil. How's this?
I
Starts with
know
the
that I know
S.
you're talking about. I can't remember his name
There's the
though.
underground. They had deep underground bases that humans were working down. And they found that there were aliens, gray aliens down
Yeah,
there, and
yeah.
they do die. Apparently, they had like firefights with some of these aliens, and I guess
Yeah, I
he
have
shot
heard about
one.
that. Yeah.
He shot one, and he's wounded. And this alien rubs his chest, and like a blue beam shoots out of his chest and hits the dude, and like cuts slices all his fingers off and slice him open like a fish. and one of his guys saved him, threw him in a crane to get him back up in the elevator.
Oh shit.
So
Yeah.
people have died apparently in these
Oh
battles.
yeah,
He's
yeah,
like, there's an
yeah.
underground war right now that Americans don't even like don't even know about. And
I was watching one earlier. I watched a video earlier actually before this. I forget the guy's name, but he was a ex Lockheed Martin scientist, and he was showing a lot of stuff. He was actually showing pictures of what was supposedly alien bodies and alien faces and stuff.
mhm,
I had to send it to you. But it was he was saying that like 19 people died in one incident, and this is like 2014, I want to say. This
mhm.
video is from, and he said 19 people died in one incident because they were trying to do test flights of
Oh,
of reverse engineered shit and couldn't handle it. And
yeah,
19 people died. I don't know what that means. Like the G force. I don't
or
know what
the
that means exactly, but
radiation. That's
who
probably
knows? And
radiating off of
he
it.
named three different things like palladium. So three different I don't know. He said he's named three different scientific elements, I guess. And he
Mm,
was saying that notice that none of them were metals. He's like, and this is the three things it took to make their ships and make them run.
hmm.
And none of it was metal. It was interesting the way he described it. Like, and I forget what the three were. Thalus something, and I don't know. I'm not one of them people that can remember. Like I was
Yeah.
saying, like you were saying, I have knowledge. I do have knowledge, but I can never regurgitate the fucking words right. I have to sit down and write it. I have to write it into a song, or you know what I'm saying, or I have to
Yeah.
fucking make a joke about it. I'm not like RFK. Like I've noticed recently, RFK, he'll tell you every word of every information, detailed. I'm not like that personality. I wish I was. I wish I could be like just rattle off. Well, in 1962, the such and such. I can't do that shit at all. But anyway, so
Yeah, when you talked about Bob Lazar,
yeah,
just to give you my opinion on that, um,
yeah. I'm curious.
I think Bob Lazar has changed his story now and then a little bit throughout the
Mm.
years. But when people asked him about it, he said it's because the government fucked around with my memory, and he
Oh, I don't.
simply
I've never seen that. Oh,
yeah
okay.
he simply forgot some parts of his story, and sometimes he said because of that parts of the story mixed up or yeah stuff like that. So I
Oh,
think it changed
oh,
his story now and then, just a little bit. It changed, but
yeah,
for the
yeah.
most part, like you said, it's the same.
I think there's possible for there to be a little bit of wavering though over what 30 years of telling the story,
Sure.
many interviews. But at the same time, my thing is, well, then how do you corroborate the people? Like there was a couple people that came forward and said that they had worked with Bob Lazar. I remember seeing him. Have you heard of those two? I think there was two dudes or
Mhm.
one dude
Yes,
maybe.
right.
And I've heard of them. And then I was all, but then also I look at it like, well, but then David Grush and some or is basically saying that he has people that are saying the exact same thing as Bob Lazar was saying. So I just kind of look at it like, well, how many do we need? How many need to come out? You know what I'm saying? Before we just believe it. Especially if they're letting us it's like they don't like you can't just get in front of the National Press Club and all that shit unless they let you. They
Right.
This information doesn't come out unless our government is like, yeah, it's cool.
Right.
You know what I
No.
mean? Like they've gone through great lengths to hide a lot of shit.
Yeah.
Like
No, you're right.
we still don't know exactly how Kennedy got killed. Not exactly. I mean, I know I got my own theories, but that's a whole nother.
Jackie
That's a
Kennedy was the
series.
third shooter.
Yeah.
um. No.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
No, you're right.
it's like they'll let us know what they need to let us know. I mean, I firmly believe that kind of shit. I mean, it's the mercy we're at. It's
Yeah.
the two-party system
But again,
we've
I
let
think
happen.
all this Congress hearings and all this is historical, and it's changed
Absolutely,
everything. And
absolutely.
the fact now it's not like the crazy farmer has to prove the world
Yeah.
that UFOs exist. Now Congress has to prove that UFOs don't exist. So good
Right.
luck. Right?
I know. No, I know. Right. Right.
It's so
But
cool. It's a
that's what
whole
I was saying.
flip.
I love. Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I agree. I don't want to take away the importance of that, but the fact that the amount they're letting out and how many more questions there are now,
Mhm.
that to me is gonna dictate a lot. and I don't think they're gonna go much further for a while. I don't think it's gonna be like the foot on the gas now, though. I think it's gonna
Mhm.
be like, you know, let's coast a little bit. You know what I'm saying, and see how this goes. I mean, there might be some events. Maybe some of it's not under their control. Maybe that's why they're letting some stuff out now because they know, okay, shit, some of this it ain't under our control. There's gonna be some events. You know, they're gonna have to be ready, but they can't tell us until the events. You know what I mean? Who knows? More questions, right? But yeah, uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Ah, that's
more
so
questions.
awesome. Very interesting.
For
Well, I think
sure.
we're getting close towards the end here, but
All right.
any following statements or
Yeah,
thoughts
yeah.
or any information where people can reach out, maybe find your music because this guy does awesome hip
Uh,
hop music for anybody who's interested in hip hop. That's all right.
well,
Yeah.
it was a rambunctious, Rambunctious, rambunctious cipher den, rambunctious uh, at Bandcamp. That's pretty much where you can find my music. You can find a lot on YouTube if you put that in. Rambunctious music on YouTube, and that's Rambunctious. I started Ram Speaks Productions. You can find that. That's where I'm gonna start doing like little podcast clips of telling stories. Maybe I'll break some of these down, the UFO parts, and put them on there.
That'd be great.
And basically that IG is Ram Speaks Productions, and that one is basically gonna be kind of a mix of everything, like all of the things I do, just kind of in terms of I'll direct it all there. So I'm kind of trying to start fresh without losing all the followers on which ain't that many, but
Yeah.
anyway, yeah. So that, but yeah, shit. I mean, I'll be doing a lot of stuff though, man. I'm working on videos. I got an album coming with my man Bofat. It's done. I'm just basically editing 3 videos right now. Um, and so yeah,
That's
and that'll
dope.
be that. And
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Dope.
I've had
Yeah.
a fucking. This is fun, man. I'm glad y'all had me.
Yeah, this
Thank
has
you.
been really fun.
Shit.
Actually, well, I definitely will invite you back to talk with us again. Maybe we'll have like a
Cool.
group chat. Maybe we'll have like 5 of us or 6 of us, just
I'm
kind
down
of
whenever,
throwing out
man.
some new what's going on in the UFO world, and we can just
All
chit
right.
chat and just kick the shit. So
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually curious on some of the stuff Tom DeLonge's done with novels. I just recently saw that.
yeah,
That I didn't know he had novels, and I'm interested. I'm actually interested to check those out possibly.
yeah,
We'll
that'd
see.
be cool.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so maybe come back and talk about that. But all right,
All right.
I'm
Well,
gonna
I want
holler.
you. I want you to stay
Oh,
with us
yeah.
for 2 more minutes, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Shit,
All right.
sorry.
Cool.